And I want to go now to retired Colonel Lawrence Wilkerson. He was chief of staff to former Secretary of State Colin Powell. And I appreciate your time, Colonel. So you're part of this bipartisan group, I know, 80 former government and military officials that met secretly to sort of game out that what could possibly happen if President Trump does refuse to concede the election if he loses. So take us into that room if you can. What did you envision in this scenario? I mean, this is sort of an impossible thing for many of us to even imagine in this country, but that's exactly what you were trying to do to see what would happen. What did you envision?
Well, I belong to three groups: the National Task Force for Election Crises, which has been meeting since June of 2019, and then the one you're talking about, the Transition Integrity Project, which has been running some tabletop exercises with some of the best political operatives in Washington and others, scholars and so forth, playing the Trump team and playing the Biden team. And this is an exercise that I'm very familiar with from my military experience with exercises. Call it a war game if you want. And the Trump team makes a move, the Biden team makes a counter move, and so forth and so on. And the insights we've gotten from this game are very vivid. You don't learn lessons, but you do get insights into decision-making and insights into possibilities. And one of the insights we've gotten is a blinding flash of the obvious, but it's important. The person who owns the government owns the power. That's a very good insight for everyone to have. If you have the departments, the Homeland Security Department, the military, and all the other elements of executive power, you have an enormous advantage. And so you have to play off that insight, and you have to start to develop mechanisms, means, legal and otherwise, to combat that incredible advantage, especially if you have someone who is unscrupulous, dishonest, frankly, and willing to go beyond the law to do whatever he needs to do to stay in power. And that's a problem. That's a real challenge.
So, some Republicans you're obviously not downplaying this, and you see the significance of it and the danger. Some Republicans are downplaying the president's tweet today, trying to say it was just a joke. Senator John Cornyn of Texas saying, I think it's a joke. Obviously, he doesn't have the power to do that, which sort of flies in the face of exactly what you're just laying out. Because, by the way, he says this all the time. This is not a new thing, right? Here he is actually just in an interview with Chris Wallace.
Are you suggesting that you might not accept the results of the election?
I have to say no. I'm not going to just say yes. I'm not going to say no. And I didn't last time either.
Yes, no, I'm not going to say yes. I'm not going to say no. I mean, what do you make of that? Is this just a joke for him?
Well, you look at it and you look at his past and some of the things he's said and done in the past, and you have to say this man could be serious. And as long as you have to say that, and I think you do in our tabletop exercises have emphasized that, you've got to be ready. And you've got to have some ammunition in your quiver, so to speak, to deal with it if it comes to the point where it's really serious. Let's say, for example, these deployments right now of Homeland Security contract and other law enforcement agents to Portland, to Detroit, to Albuquerque, to Philadelphia, to Chicago, and elsewhere are strategic tests of what could be done in very critical states and very critical places where voting will take place. This is not a good development. Not a good development at all. And it's not like we haven't done this before. General Grant, President Grant, deployed forces during the election of 1876, and they influenced voting. They influenced voting against the Ku Klux Klan and others who would stop blacks from voting, so we can say that was okay, but we don't want to see that happening on the other side of the coin. We don't want to see military forces being deployed to influence voters.